happy Monday morning. This is the opening line report. We're going to get you ready for NFL Week 6. But first, we got to talk about Week 5. We're going to bring in Teddy Covers. I'm loving the Lions garb. The comment section already going nuts. And I used the Lions, thankfully, in Survivor. Teddy, I did not. I used the Rams and the Cardinals. I did have some. I survived with the Colts over on Splash. But really quickly, before we get into this, I saw this tweet a few minutes ago, and my jaw just hit the floor. Titans down 18, win as an underdog, plus 430. Panthers down 17, get the win and cover. Broncos down 14 and win as a plus 180 underdog. Saints down 11, got the win and the cover. Commanders down 10, plus 140. They get the outright win as an underdog. And then last night, Patriots, almost a wire-to-wire winner as a $3 underdog. That was the chaos I was looking for, unfortunately. It also took out some of my Survivor picks. That's what we're going to get into today, Teddy. We are going to talk about what we saw last weekend and how it is going to affect this coming up weekend. But first, I've never seen you not in a suit jacket and T-shirt.
Yeah, it's Dave Sherapin's funeral. I'm going right after the show. So I thought I would dress in some team gear to remember our good friend. That's what he would have worn. So, and I didn't have a matching cap. I only had a Michigan cap and a Lions shirt. So it is what it is. And this is the only shirt that so this shirt is a Joey Harrington. Okay. I used to have a Charles Rogers as well. My buddy bought him at when they were selling them at the end of the season when everyone had been cut the year they went 0-17 or 0-16. He got them for like $5 or $10. He's like, yeah, I'll get you a couple. But yes, that is a Joey Harrington. Nice call, Ethan. This is in tribute to our dear departed friend, Dave Sherapin.
Yeah, I had a lot of friends be able to go to the celebration of life, and I was told that everybody dressed for the occasion, and that just warmed my heart here on this beautiful Monday morning. Teddy, let's get into last weekend, what we saw. But first, let's talk about Monday Night Football.
Sure, Monday night. And right now, looking at the Odds Logic live odds screen, KC minus 3.5, pretty much painted across the board. Total 45.5, pretty much painted across the board. There were threes out there for the Chiefs earlier in the week. Those have now been bought up. As expected, you tend to see the money come for the public favorite on Monday night, or the money trickle for the public favorite, and that's what happened here, obviously. But again, right now, 3.5, 45.5. Jacksonville, we'll talk about the Jags as we go through the show, but the Jags certainly playing for respect tonight from a betting marketplace that hasn't given them all that much respect yet, despite their hot start to the season.
All right, Teddy, let's get into Thursday night football here really quickly, because we got to talk about this Eagles team. I am actually, would you like to recap last weekend first? I apologize.
I mean, when you talk about the beats, you brought up we have 5 double-digit comebacks yesterday. The worst of the bunch was Arizona, who led 21-6. They had a 72-yard touchdown scamper. Oops, he didn't want to carry the ball over the goal line. And then they found Kyler Murray fumbled off a bad snap. And then they had the game-sealing interception. Oops, well, let's fumble that back on a non-contact play. Ends up as a Panthers touchdown. It was bizarre for Arizona. But we talked about it last week on this show. I'm like, don't use Arizona Survivor. I don't trust them. And for the third straight game, the Cardinals found a way to lose on the very last play. Obviously, the Dolphins was another one. And we're going to talk a bit about Miami here. Up 17-0. They got punched and punched back. They just needed one stop in the fourth quarter after retaking the lead. Couldn't get that stop for the Dolphins. The Giants turned the ball over 5 times in a row. That allowed the Saints to rally back. But the one that had me steaming, I had Colts Raiders over. All right. They finished with 46. Closing total 46.5. I got 47.5, was as high as 48.5. The Raiders went 0-4 in the red zone. They got 4 times the red zone and scored 6 points. That's a little short. But the key was the Colts kicker got hurt. Then they missed 3 2-point conversions. And again, stayed under by 1.5, a half a point, depending on where you got the number. That was a little frustrating. Very frustrating if you had the Raiders, Colts, over the total like my clients and I did yesterday.
I'm sorry to hear that, Teddy, but I needed an easy Colts win after what had happened to me there on Thursday night. That was my best bet from this week on Bet On It, and I will take it. Sometimes those rocking chair winners are just good for your betting soul, and I needed a rocking chair winner there. I'm sorry that even when the Colts put up a 40 burger, you somehow did not hit that over. That is just an absolute utter travesty that the Raiders are that inept offensively.
Yeah, they had a rough day yesterday. Again, we'll talk about it. Let's go through the games. It's time.
Right,
it's time. We got EBAs. The lines are popping right now. So
perfect. EBAs. I'm going to be ready for it. Let's start off with Thursday night football. Eagles at the Giants. An NFC least preview, if you will.
Sure. And of course, so I'm going to give you 4 sets of numbers for all of these games. That's what I do every week. We'll give you the look headline from last week, my powering number, the opener last night, and what we're looking at today. So look headline here was a split line. There were 7s and 7.5s out there for Philadelphia, total 42.5. My powering number only comes 6 for the game. Last night we saw 7s and 7.5s. The markets have moved to 7.5 this morning, total 42 last night. We're seeing under money come in for this one, 41.5. And I'm seeing 7.5s across the board. And I'm going to say this, I don't think the 7.5s can hold. I think we'll see Giants money. So let's EBA. You know, you're not going to get the worst of it if you take plus 7.5 right now. If you want the Giants, grab it sooner rather than later. I do not see this line going up. It's not going up to 8 or 9. So to take a plus 7.5 now, say there's urgency in that, there's a reasonable chance this gets bet down to 7 or below. Again, my powering number says 6, and I'm still pretty high on Philadelphia. But the Eagles have now, you know, they lost the box score the first 4 games and still found a way to win. You know, now they've lost the box score in all 5. And they're coming off, you know, a blown 17-3 lead and a week where there was all kinds of chatter in Philadelphia, you know, all the chirping in the locker room, A.J. Brown and his cryptic social media posts and all the like. And when you blow a lead, a 2-touchdown lead, and you hear that chirping, it's something of a concern, certainly. And, of course, they still had a chance to win in the final play. Hurts throwing in the end zone. Couldn't bring it in. But when you have a 2-touchdown lead and you can't run the football, that's a concern. Saquon Barkley, 6 of 30 yesterday on the ground. The team just 11 of 45. Meanwhile, again, 11 carries, 48 dropbacks for Hurts. That's not the ratio you want when you're up 2 touchdowns. That's bizarre. They had a late fourth down. They had a 4th down conversion called back, an illegal shift penalty against Barkley. And, of course, the defense got gashed when it mattered most. You know, the last 3 drives, touchdown, field goal allowed, and they were all 50-plus yard drives, all long drives against that Eagles defense. So, you know, the passing game was ranked number 31 in the NFL heading into the week. There are issues right now. And, of course, we talk about positive chemistry. I don't love this quote from Devonta Smith. Quote, we got to get on the same page and continue to be on the same page. We could be a lot better, shot ourselves in the foot a lot. Been hearing a lot of these type of quotes from Philadelphia of late, which makes me think, again, the 7.5 may not hold. That being said, I did not like the leadership on the Giants yesterday. They did not respond well to adversity when everything snowballed. They led 14-3 after the first 2 drives. They didn't score again. 5 drives in a row ended in turnovers. It's hard to win games with a 5 turnover margin. And, of course, only 3 other teams in the last 25 years have turned the ball over on 5 straight possessions in the NFL. That would be the 2016 Jets, the 2010 Jaguars, and the 2010 Bears. 2010 Bears, for those who are wondering. So doesn't happen a lot. Jackson Dart, after the game, said the right things. You know, again, the team won first downs, they won yardage, but a bad team off a win, they did not execute, obviously. Dart, quote, I told as many guys in the locker room as I could, as many guys as I can in the locker room, this one's on me, and I'm going to get better. I expect myself to play better in these games and to win them. But certainly there were a lot of concerns about the Giants secondary in that ballgame. They got lit up again and again down the stretch for the Saints. And you give up, you know, an 87-yard touchdown catch, an 80-plus yard fumble return touchdown. Hard to win there. That said, Thursday night, short turnaround. We saw the home dog. We saw the dog in the divisional matchup do fairly well last Thursday night with San Francisco. I'd expect to see some Giants money here. I'm not convinced the 7.5 will hold.
All right, Teddy, we're headed back to London. I don't know why, but we are. The Denver Broncos are taking on the Jets. Sorry to all the Englanders that have to subject themselves to the New York Jets. Teddy, on the Super Contest. Every week they tweet out their top 5, right? And I was on the Jets, and they were my lone loser yesterday. And I was like, I knew it was the kiss of death when all the sharp guys, right, or the guys in the contest shelling out thousands of dollars to play, presumably are sharp, and they're all on this god-awful team. What does that mean? It means it was a kiss of death for me. It is what it is. But the Jets could not get out of their own way yet again. Now they are catching over a touchdown in an international game.
Yeah, I had the Jets yesterday as well. They were pretty awful. There wasn't no sugarcoating what happened to the Jets yesterday. It was rough. Look ahead line here. Denver -6.5, 43. My powering number, Denver -9. The markets opened 7/7.5, 43.5. And we're seeing the 7.5 pretty much getting bought up right now. It's all 7s out there. So there's no emergency betting alert need because it's already gone. That said, 43.5, the prevailing total. I'm not sensing that's moving in any direction right now. So the Jets allowed 7.1 yards per play to a team playing with 4 backup offensive linemen. All right. The box score lies, says the Jets offense worked, but the Jets offense didn't work. They trailed that game against the worst defense, the second worst defense in the league in a yards per play basis, Dallas. They trailed 30-3. Everything they got offensively was garbage time. All right. The Brees Hall fumble in the red zone was the only turnover of the game. It wasn't like they turned it over 20 times. Justin Fields sacked 5 times. They had 10 penalties. And remember, Aaron Glenn, the first-time head coach, ripped into the team after the Monday night loss to Miami. You blew the game. How's the team going to respond? Facing against an opponent with 4 backup offensive linemen coming off a tie, and they did not respond well. Aaron Glenn, quote, I'm going to embrace this challenge, all right, like any other challenge, and we're going to figure out as a team how to get out of this hole. The Jets, the first team in NFL history not to force a single turnover in their first 5 ball games. Right now, this defense is bottom tier. Now, the Broncos are coming off a pretty big win. That was a statement win for them against Philadelphia, a game in which they did nothing for 3 quarters and then were the vastly superior team in the 4th. They played 3 games away from home, all decided by a field goal or less. So when you talk about laying this type of price with Denver, that could be a concern. They're not winning games by margin this year the way they were a year ago. Bo Nix did a lot of things right, completed passes to 9 different receivers. Cortland Sutton, 19 catches, 298 yards the last 3 weeks, and the last 3 drives, touchdown, field goal, all 50-plus yards. The aggressive 2-point conversion midway through the 4th. Peyton had a play for the 2-point conversion. Denver's a team with the arrow pointed upwards right now. The Jets, not so much.
Yep, if you want to take the Jets, have some Pepto-Bismol ready because they're going to hurt your stomach for 4 quarters. Luckily, Red Zone didn't have to show me too much of it, Teddy. The Pittsburgh Steelers are off a bye, and they are back at home now, taking on the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, look at line here. Pittsburgh -5.5, total 37.5. My powering number, Pittsburgh -6. Markets opened 4.5, 37.5 last night. We're seeing 5s and 38s. This morning. Most of the 37.5s are gone, but there's still a couple out there. And I don't think that 37.5 is going to last now that Cleveland, in theory, has found something on the offensive side of the football. That said, there's not enough of them out there. I can't say to shop around. There's only a couple of 37.5s out there. So I'm not going to emergency betting alert it as a result. That being said, you can find a 37.5 right now at DraftKings. You can find one in Vegas here at South Point. I don't think those will be there for much longer. Steelers off a bye under Mike Tomlin, 14-4 straight up. They've won 8 straight off a bye dating back to 2017. Last year, they came off the bye and beat Washington at +2.5 underdogs. That being said, they won that game by a single point, 28-27. Pittsburgh, offensively, not necessarily a team that you're comfortable laying points with against a quality defense. The Browns, no bye off the London trip, which is, one of those things you want to be aware of. They've had more travel than most teams normally do in a 2-game span. The Browns +2 in turnovers yesterday, still lost, still failed to cover against Minnesota. And again, 4.8 yards per play. Dylan Gabriel was better then, again, against a Flores defense, I can't complain, but 4.8 yards per play. All right. They haven't gotten a league average on offense in any game just yet. And the play calling for Gabriel, a credit to Stefanski and his staff, they got the ball out quickly because this offensive line is still very much an issue. He only had 2.54 seconds average time to throw. Now there's film on him, though. And, of course, Quinshon Judkins has been really impressive. 110 rushing yards, 18 receiving yards, back-to-back games with 100 scrimmage yards. The Browns running back to do that since Nick Chubb did it in 2018. So there were positives for Cleveland off the loss. That said, and, of course, we're talking about a good defensive underdog. I do not see this line going through the roof. I do not see a bunch of Pittsburgh money coming in, even though my powering number at 6 says that this line is priced fairly cheaply at the current number.
So, Teddy, I'm still alive in a couple survivors, not the big one, but I still have my little handy-dandy spreadsheet that I worked on, and I had the Steelers circled here. You mentioned Tomlin off a bye. We mentioned the Browns' travel schedule coming back from London. Plus, the Browns have been pretty lackluster overall outside of that Packers win. Would you consider the Steelers for survivor this week, or should I just take the layup here maybe and use Green Bay?
So I've been much better at saying who you shouldn't take than who you should take.
Okay, should I not take the Steelers? Is that a bad spot?
2 weeks ago, I'm like, don't take the Chargers.
Yeah.
This past week, I said, don't take Arizona. Pittsburgh is not on my don't take list.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, then I'll keep them on my long list. Speaking of Arizona, go ahead, Teddy.
I would say it's worth noting that we talk all about how the Browns defense is great and how their defensive metric numbers are great. The final drive for Minnesota to win the game, Cleveland's defense, 9 for 9, allowed Carson Wentz to pick them apart and march Minnesota right down the field into the end zone. So when push came to shove, the Cleveland defense did not get the stop that many were looking for.
All right, let's talk about how Arizona is going to bounce back. It was no different than K-State to me, like that loss on Saturday. You look at the metrics on ESPN, it's like 97.5% chance they're going to win this game, and then it just falls off a cliff, and that's exactly what happened with the Cardinals. And the Colts, on the other hand, I said, were just absolutely and utterly easy, and I needed that. But now this line is kind of saying, hey, let's see what the Colts have. I like this Colts team. Kind of talk to me if you think maybe they are a Super Bowl contender, if there is something future-wise we should be looking at here, or have they just kind of played a softer schedule?
So in terms of my powering numbers, my biggest riser since the beginning of the season is the Indianapolis Colts. This is my preseason rankings. Absolutely. My biggest faller, the Baltimore Ravens. No surprise there. And I don't even know now if I have Baltimore priced correctly. The markets have Baltimore even lower than I do. But am I going to call Indy a Super Bowl contender? No. This team's not winning the Super Bowl. This team's not getting the big game. There are better teams than them in the AFC. That doesn't mean that they're not live to win the division and or make the playoffs and or win a playoff game or two. I just don't see them winning 3 or 4 playoff games when all said and done. Look headline here. There were 3.5s and 4 for Indy, total 46.5. My powering number, and I had to downgrade Arizona and I had to upgrade Indy, 6.5 for this ball game. So I'm a little bit above the market. The markets right now, there were 5.5s last night. They're not there really anymore. There's still a couple 5.5s for Indy, mostly 6s. 47 the total last night. I'm seeing 47.5 out there right now. I would not be shocked at all to see Colts money come in. And again, I'm even seeing a 5.5. Oh no, I'm sorry. I was looking at the other game. I'm seeing 5.5s right there and a couple of books for Indy against Arizona. And of course, the Cardinals had 3 touchdowns their first 4 drives. They were up 21-3, and then they never scored again. Third straight game that they've lost on a walk-off field goal on the last play. That is truly demoralizing. Kyler Murray said it might be the worst loss of his career. I really don't know what to think about that. It's how to lose a game 101. That was crazy. Jonathan Gannon, obviously very disappointing. Felt that we had multiple chances to put away the game, all 3 phases, and we didn't do it. Collectively, we have to do a better job. Until we do a better job, we're going to keep losing. By the way, according to Sports Radar, that's the first time in NFL history that a team has lost all 3 games in a row on the very last play on a game-winning field goal. And of course, the defense, which they intercepted the pass, then they fumbled back, but they really contained. They contained Tennessee all game. Tennessee did not look good. And then the final drive, boom, there's Calvin Ridley wide open downfield for a 40-yard pass. DeMarcado fumbling at the 1-inch line. Arizona's a little bit shell-shocked right now. I don't trust them. And Indy's killing people. Dominant performance against a lesser foe. The offense has scored 33, 29, 41, and 40 in their 4 wins. The second time in 3 home games, they've held their opponent under 10. They held the Dolphins to 8 points in week 1. Now, the box score for Indy wasn't dominant yesterday. Didn't need to be. They only outgained them by a yard per play. But also worth noting how strong, they're so strong in the trenches. They blew up the line of scrimmage over and over again. That was the difference in the total in that ball game for sure. And the offensive line is blowing open holes for Jonathan Taylor and giving Danny Dimes time to throw. Vegas had recorded a sack in 39 consecutive games, the longest active streak in the NFL. That streak came to an end thanks to Indy's OL play yesterday. Shane Steichen, quote, "The guys are playing at a high level right now. They're playing together." It's Indy team that I'm in no rush to step in front of. I would not be surprised at all if we see more Colts money between now and kickoff. Arizona, though, Arizona's not getting blown out. They're just losing by a little bit. But this might be the kind of game where a demoralized team gets slapped around a little bit.
All right, Teddy, let everybody know what you've got going on right now over at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, so we didn't have a good day yesterday, unfortunately. But it's been a good couple of weeks. The last 2.5 weeks, 24-12, all sports run. The baseball has been good, 4-1 start to the playoffs. The college football has been really good, with the exception of my big ticket. I won everything on Saturday, 10-3 college football run. And the NFL is still profitable for the season, even off yesterday's disappointment. Single best bet available tonight for Monday Night Football, WT.buzz/TC. But don't buy a play. Get on board with the package if you want to get on board. We got weekly deals, monthly deals, seasonal deals, basketball on the horizon. I would encourage you, if you want to get on board, check out one of the great special offers that we've got at WagerTalk.com. You get it for me, you can get it for anybody. But if you want some football, let's partner up. You can get tonight's play if you want, $25. I would encourage you to get a package, not the play.
Yeah, that is crazy, Teddy. The NBA is starting already, and college basketball is just right around the corner. Time is flying when you're having a good time during the NFL season. You know who's not having a good time? The Baltimore Ravens are not having a good time, and neither is their fan base. Ariel Epstein just went on an absolute 3 or 4 TikTok tangent yesterday about the woes, the injuries, and the issues within Baltimore. Teddy, you mentioned that you downgrade your power ratings every single week, and you said, hey, hand up, I don't know if I've downgraded Baltimore enough. Mm-hmm. Yet at FanDuel this morning, Baltimore is still favored to win their division. My head is kind of in a pretzel. So kind of talk about this Baltimore Ravens team, and then, of course, them facing the Rams this weekend.
Sure. Right now, okay, so look headline here. There were 4.5s and 5.5s for the Rams against the Ravens. Total 44.5. My powering number came Rams 5.5. The markets opened 7 and 45 last night, and now I'm seeing the 7s are gone. It's all 7.5/45.5. So they're asking the Rams to win by more than a touchdown against the Baltimore team. Again, they got blown off the field again yesterday. You can't run, you can't win in Baltimore. Derrick Henry, 15 carries, 33 yards. The full team, 19 carries, 44 yards. Henry had 169 rushing yards versus Buffalo week 1. Since that time, 23, 50, 42, 33 rushing yards in the last 4 games. That's 46 carries for 148 yards, 3 yards a carry. That ain't going to win football games in Baltimore. Cooper Rush threw 3 picks. Lamar Jackson's not going to be back this week. But that's not even the story. The bigger story is the defense. They've lost 4 games. In those 4 losses, they've allowed 41, 38, 37, and 44. Houston, a team that hadn't moved the football all season, scored on all 8 offensive possessions when Stroud was in the game. All right. So, they started 5 rookies on defense, filling for all the injured players. All right. They're now 2-10 their last 12 tries playing without Lamar Jackson. So you have a defense riddled with injuries. You have an offense riddled with injuries. I've got Baltimore ranked among the second. I don't have them ranked with the Tennessees and the Carolinas and New Orleans of the world, or the Jets in that matter, or where the Raiders are going in that matter. But I've got Baltimore in that next tier amongst the other bad teams right now. And again, the market's a full 2 points lower on the Ravens than I am for this one. It's worth noting teams are going into the bye this past week went 2-0 again. That's 5-1 this season. ATS teams going into the bye. Next week, Baltimore and Buffalo are on bye. That's certainly something worth paying attention to. Harbaugh, quote, I thought we would play better. I thought we would tackle better. It was not up to standard. We have enough good players out there to play better than we did. Heat on the defense coordinator, Zach Orr. He was asked if he was going to consider changes with Orr, the defensive staff. Quote, I do not think that's the answer. We have to go to work is what we need to do. We need to stick together is what we need to do. We need to find ourselves, blah, blah, blah. So no changes to the staff for Baltimore. As for the Rams, obviously they're coming off a pretty frustrating loss of their own. Kyron Williams fumbled at the 1 foot line, no go-ahead touchdown, and the offense couldn't get a yard with the game on the line in overtime. And the defense got gashed for 342 yards passing to a backup quarterback and backup receivers. That being said, these Thursday night games, there's a lot of randomness. I really tried not to overreact to what we just saw on a Thursday night game. And yet an old quarterback on a short week. And Stafford's stats look fine, but I've seen him sharper. That's something to be aware of. And yards per play in a game that they lost. The Rams, 7.1. The Niners, 4.9. McVay, I'm pretty sick right now. I'm sick of the spot I put our group in to end the game, but these are tough beats, and you got to be able to learn from them and move forward. The Rams are 3-2. They're 2 plays from being 5-0. The blocked field goal against Philly and the 4th-and-1 stuff against San Fran. There's a thought process out there, perhaps, that maybe this LA Rams team, even laying 7.5, is underpriced. My powering number says they're not.
All right. The Jaguars play tonight, but we're going to talk about next Sunday's game versus, the Seattle Seahawks. Teddy, the Mad Russian and I have a circuit injury we do every year called Kelly in Russia. And every single week we have like some ridiculous thing happen to us. This week we didn't have anything crazy happen, but we did have the Seahawks. And it was not pretty. That Bucs team, I thought, has showed some real resilience this NFL season. And we can get into them a little bit later. But I thought, hey, Darnold has been impressive in Seattle. I have liked this team a lot. And yet they could not get the win at home.
Look ahead line here. Jacksonville, pick'em /-1, total of 44. My powering number, pick'em, Jags, Seahawks. The market's open, pick'em 1/1.5. So there was some variance last night. Total anywhere from 44.5 to 45.5. This morning, I'm seeing Seattle as -1/-1.5. There are pick'ems out there as well. If you like the Jags tonight, plus the points against KC. Again, if this team looks good on national TV tonight, they're likely to be the favorites against the Seattle team, West Coast team traveling east off a loss, off a poor defensive showing. So if the Jags get bombed tonight, I'm not convinced that the markets will be excited about them the same way they are right now. So depending on which way you like Monday Night Football this evening, you may want to put a parlay in on or against Jacksonville, this line, and be getting the best of the number for week 2 if you get week 1 right. Of course, the Jags, 13 takeaways through 4 games. It's the most in the NFL by far. Last year, for the full 17-game season, they had 9 takeaways. So they're already 4 more than the entirety of last year. We'll see if they can do some of that tonight against KC. And Seattle's not turning the ball over a lot. They had 1 yesterday, but the 1 interception came at absolutely the wrong time. Inside 2 minutes with the score tied at 35-all in their own territory. And, of course, Jason Myers missed a 44-yard field goal earlier in the game. And let's not forget the Jalen Milroe fumble of all the play calls yesterday that you got to be frustrated about if you're a fan of your team. All right, let's bring Milroe into the game to run the option and then throw a bad pitch and fumble. That equaled the Bucs touchdown. So multiple injuries for Seattle as well. They're playing without 3 starters on defense: DeMarcus Lawrence, Devin Witherspoon, and Julian Love, 2 in the secondary. The linebacker, Derek Hall, got hurt yesterday. The other cornerback, Rick Woolen, got hurt yesterday as well. So those are concerns. And again, they gained 8.6 yards per play on offense, 6.1 yards per rush, ran the ball right down Tampa's throat all game, 10 yards per pass attempt. They went 4 of 4 in the red zone. They went 6 of 9 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth down. They scored 35 points at home. It's hard to lose a game like that. Seattle found a way.
Yes, they did. And that's because me and Jeff both were on them. I'm fully convinced. No, all jokes aside, it is funny how sometimes when you and a buddy agree, Teddy, you're like, damn it. And it was the same thing as what I said about the Jets. You and I were both on the Jets. We thought, hey, we've got Dallas, Sunday Night Football, and a barn burner versus the Packers. They get the game tying, win, if you will, which I think for the Cowboys, it was considered a win. Maybe not for the Packers, but definitely for the Cowboys. Then they get to travel east, and it's just the lowly Jets. Yet the line was 2.5, and it was begging you to lay it with Dallas. And if you laid it with Dallas, you look pretty darn smart.
Yeah. So Dallas didn't think that they were that the win against that the tie against the Packers was a good thing. And you read the quotes after the game, it's very clear. Dak Prescott. I saw this coming on the simple fact this team knows how confident we are, what we're capable of doing. We knew it was important to get the taste of last week out of our mouth and out of our mind.
Okay, good point. Well, now they get to face the Panthers, like another game that you just don't think that Dallas is going to be up for, right? Like these are these like kind of weird situations where I think the rubber is going to meet the road here for the Dallas Cowboys, right? They are not fully healthy, but they've been getting healthier week by week. Dak Prescott's still upright. Panthers, on the other hand, I mentioned how awful they look. They were down 17 at one point, and I thought, good grief, who let me bet the Panthers? And then here come the Panthers. What do we make of these two teams headed into week 6?
Look ahead line, Dallas -3.5, 47. My powering number, Dallas -3. The market's open 3.5 and 49 last night. And I'm still seeing 3.5s out there now, but 49.5 the total. Maybe it's time to emergency betting alert this one. Carolina +3.5. Again, it's not going to hurt you to bet it now. I don't see this line going up. I can only see it going down. Why? Well, the Cowboys are playing with 4 backup offensive linemen and no CD Lamb. All right, Nate Thomas just made the first start of his career, filling in for Tyler Guyton. Hakeem Adeniji made his first start with the Cowboys at guard. All right, we've got Trevor Keenan and Brock Hoffman starting his first game at center. TJ Bass starting only his second game at right guard. You got BB hurt. You got Booker hurt. You got Tyler Smith active, but unable to play in that ball game. Those are now, we don't know what the injury report's going to look like this week for the offensive line. But again, you got 180 rushing yards, 8.2 yards per play, 7.1 yards per pass. 8.2 yards per pass attempt, 7.1 yards per play. No CD, no problem. Ryan Flournoy comes out of nowhere. Jake Ferguson combined for 13 catches, 163 yards. Dallas was pretty pleased with himself after that ball game. And the defense still has some pretty ugly metrics even after the win, especially because the box score lied in that game against the Jets, where the Jets put up a bunch of yardage late. So I would anticipate perhaps some Panthers money. And of course, Panthers are 2-0 straight up and against the spread at home. I thought the crowd mattered yesterday. The team looked much more comfortable. The defense shut down opposing running backs, 13 carries, 14 yards. Carolina's running backs, 29 carries, 238. Rick Dowdell with a career game, 206 yards on 23 carries. Quote, they got to buckle up. Of course, he's a former Cowboy talking trash to his former team. They got to buckle up. I think they know for sure they didn't keep me there for 5 years for no reasons. Yards per play, Carolina outgained Miami by 1.7. The slow starts are a problem when you think back to that Arizona game. And, of course, yesterday, tying the franchise record with a 17-point come-from-behind victory. But Dave Canales talked about don't let things spiral. After they had that awful loss to New England where they lost by 29, Bryce Young, I think it was a great message that carried over. Obviously not the start that we want, but for us to be able to refocus. Canales talked about it all the time, being able to refocus from the good to the good from the bad. You saw that in all phases. regardless of what was going on with the scoreboard, just able to refocus and go on to the next play. That was a character win for Carolina. I do expect them to take some money, especially if this Cowboys injury report looks, you talked about the offensive line isn't getting healthier. The offense isn't getting healthier right now. And the defense has all kinds of concerns when you look at the full season stats. So I would not be shocked. We've seen some already. There's still 3.5s widely available for Carolina. I'm not convinced that'll be the case all day or all week.
All right, Teddy, the Chargers off back-to-back losses. Now head to Miami to play the Dolphins. You mentioned power ratings wise and how you've moved some of these teams around. How much have you downgraded the Chargers over the past 2 weeks?
Not that much, a little bit, a point or two, maybe I don't have my power. Let me pull them up so I can answer that question.
Yeah, I'm just genuinely curious because I kind of watched both games, right? You said do not use the Chargers in Survivor. I threw a little bit on the Giants. I knew it was the sharp side. I had zero faith in the Giants, but they got it done. Then yesterday I had the Commanders teased every possible direction and the line went to 3 and I was panic stricken. Like, oh boy, what's going to happen? But the second half, the Commanders really dominated that football game. Justin Herbert, I personally think, was making uncharacteristic mistakes. And I think we got to give a little bit more credit to the Commanders, not necessarily downgrade the Chargers so much.
Sure. I'm with you 100%. Look ahead line here. Chargers -5.5, 45. My powering number, Chargers -6. The markets opened 5.5 and 45 last night. What are we seeing today? 4s for this ball game. Still 4.5s out there, but 4 is the prevailing number. So we've seen a boatload of Miami money over the last 12 hours or so. Total 44.5, a little bit of under money there as well. And look, the Chargers, look at the scoreboard. They said they lost 27-10. They were 3 plays away from having a blowout win in that ball game. They had the punt return touchdown before halftime that got called back on a roughing the punter, which didn't help the return. So instead of 17-7, now it's 10-10 at halftime. They're trailing 20-10 in Washington territory. They get stuffed on 4th and 2. And they got the ball back there, 1st and goal from the 1, down 10. They got stuffed the first 2 play. Herbert threw a pick off a guy's face mask on the 3rd play. Game over. And then allowed a 99-yard touchdown drive to close out the game. So really 3 plays for the Chargers. 17-point loss. They could have won that game by that margin had those 3 plays gone differently. That said, they weren't able to execute on any of them. Herbert's a leading rusher. That's a problem. Marion Hampton, not a factor. And this is a team that wanted to run the football. Talked all offseason, we're going to run the football. They have the fewest runs on 1st and 2nd downs of any team in the NFL on a percentage basis. Yards per play, 5.2 for the Chargers, 7.1 for Washington, 10 penalties, 2 turnovers. This is one of the least penalized teams the first 3 weeks of the season. 15 penalties in the loss to the Giants, 10 yesterday. So Harbaugh, quote, we got to tighten up the operation in every way. And, Herbert's now been sacked 16 times. He was sacked 4 times yesterday. And the offensive line, they lost Becton and Pipkins yesterday. 2 offensive linemen got hurt during the game for the Chargers. And the fact that we've seen the Miami money tells me that maybe those injury reports aren't real good just yet. That being said, Miami, I did not like the looks on the Dolphins yet. I did not like how they responded to adversity yesterday at all. You can't run and you can't stop the run. Their running backs, 13 carries for 14 yards and allowed 29 for 238. This is a team that had, top 10 in run defense last year. 4 times in 5 games this year, they've given up 150 rushing yards. Mike McDaniel, quote, I think we were outgained by 200 yards in the run game. That's not good enough. You rarely win, if ever. But when you watch the game, Carolina wanted it more. And that was when you watch the effort in the 4th quarter, Carolina was hungrier. Miami was playing for their season, and Carolina was the hungrier team. Dolphins were favored. They were +2 in turnovers. They still lost the game. They were outgained by 1.7 yards per play. Tua, after the game, no one wants to start the season 1-4. There's just so many things that go into it. We've got to figure this out. We've got to figure it out now. This feeling sucks. I don't want Miami right now. Chargers are on my short list, although I am concerned about this injury report on the offensive line.
All right, we mentioned the Bucs. Baker doing Baker things and figuring out how to win football games. He looked rather impressive again. Mentioning impressive, do you think that Thursday night football game versus the Rams was more indicative of this Niners team and being able to plug and play Mac Jones into that offense? Or do you think that was more of a loss by the Rams? That's okay, Teddy.
I'm thinking about it, and the answer is a little bit from Colin. I mean, it's
okay.
I don't rip the Rams too much for that loss. I really don't. Again, they're a play away from winning the game. They just got stuffed on fourth down. And the Williams fumble at the goal line. I mean, it was two random, pretty random things for that game. And when you have the old quarterbacks on Thursday night, you can't rip them. They won the yards per play battle against San Fran by 2.2 yards per play. 7.1 to 4.9, and they held San Fran to 2 of 5 in the red zone. The Rams played all right. The breaks just went the Niners' way on the most impactful plays of that ball game. Look ahead line here: Tampa 2.5/3, 46.5. My powering Tampa -3.5. The markets last night, I called it 3/2.5. More threes and 2.5s out there. 47.5 for Tampa and San Fran. And it's all threes this morning. The 2.5s are gone. 47.5 the prevailing number. San Fran will have extra rest time / prep time. They are a West Coast team traveling east, but it's not an early start game. Again, they got outgained by 2.2 yards per play, but they're still going to be playing without Brock Purdy and Nick Bosa and George Kittle and the top 3 wide receivers. They're coming off a huge division win. In which they played into overtime. They're 4-1. All 4 of their wins have come by 5 points or less. You can make a case they stole all 5. All 4 wins. San Fran could easily be 0-5 right now. Wouldn't they're in game after game. And by the way, they lost 2 more defenders during the ball game. Kyla Davis and Gross Matos both got hurt during the game. 2 starting defensive linemen. Baker was pretty special again yesterday, 29 of 33, 379, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 11.5 yards per pass attempt, only 4 incompletes. That being said, other than Baker, 19 carries, 41 yards, they're still not running the football effectively. They missed Bucky Irving in that ball game. The defense got absolutely gashed. They didn't sack Darnold once. Darnold completed 82% of his passes. They gave up 6.1 yards per rush. 10 yards per pass attempt. They allowed 5 touchdowns, no field goals. Those are not good defensive numbers. That being said, make Case Baker's MVP right now. 10 touchdown passes, 1 interception in 5 games. And it's worth noting, Mayfield has been in Tampa for 3 years. He's on his 3rd offensive coordinator. Why? He's gotten each of the last 2 offensive coordinators a head coaching job. Liam Cohen, the latest example. But brutal list of injuries for this team. Obviously, Mike Evans is hurt. You got Tristan Wirfs missed the first couple of games of the season. 2 more starting offensive linemen got hurt. Jalen McMillan is out. Bucky Irving is hurt. Defense down 3 starters. The Tampa injury report, not pretty, which is going to keep this line at 3. It's not going to go up to 3.5.
All right. I'm going to see if Baker can keep hanging on. I kind of like the Bucs here in this one. Teddy, anything injury-wise that you're looking at for that Niners game before we move on to some more of the other Sunday afternoon games? Last I saw Purdy was week to week. George Kittle, hearing some different rumors. He may be back this week. Anything on your end as far as the injury report goes?
Not yet. No, just a Sunday night, you're not going to hear about who's, a lot of that stuff comes out Monday and then throughout the course of the week. But both Tampa and San Fran have significant injury concerns. The line could easily move based on what we're going to see. I would not expect – I'm not counting on Purdy being back this week. But really, how much of a difference powering-wise is there right now between Purdy and Mac Jones? A point?
That's kind of what I was asking about Thursday Night Football. If I watch that game without sound and no names on the back of the jersey, Mac Jones looked very Brock Purdy-esque. All right, let's go into the worst game on the slate this week. But just because it's a bad game does not mean we cannot find value, right, Teddy?
Sure. I mean, look, I lost money betting the Jets this week.
Titans take on the Las Vegas Raiders. We mentioned how do the Cardinals respond after their ugly loss. Tennessee got a win. Brian Callahan not fired yet. Geno Smith, turnover machine. My guy's thrown 8 interceptions so far this year. And that is why I took the Colts last week. I said, I can't trust this team, especially on the road. But now they're back at home and they're laying a lot of points here, Teddy.
Yeah, and the Raiders' home field isn't worth a whole lot. All right. Allegiant Stadium is usually half filled with opponents' crowd, and the Raiders have no history of winning on this field. So if you're going to say, oh, the Raiders are at home, I give the Raiders as small a home field edge as there is in the league. Look at line 5.5/6, 41.5. My powering number, Raiders 3.5. And I crashed the Raiders in my power rating after yesterday. I want no part. They look pretty bad. And you read the quotes afterwards and you'll understand why. 6 and 41.5 is where it opened. And we're already seeing 5.5s. And I'm going to emergency betting alert this right now. Doodly-oo. Yeah. If you want Tennessee +6, grab it. This can't hold. It can't. The Raiders aren't good enough to lay 6 points. Now, admittedly, the Titans needed a break in the worst way, and Arizona gave them about 10 of them. They looked dead in the water. They trailed 21-3. They allowed 3 touchdowns on 4 drives. And then boom, all of a sudden, they took advantage of a bunch of Cardinals mistakes. But Coach Callahan, everyone was calling for him to be fired at halftime. Things just have to go your way sometimes. We haven't had a lot of those so far this year. We haven't had a lot of bounces in our favor. Sometimes you need that. In the fourth quarter, Cam Ward, 13 of 18, 193 yards. I wish we had started better, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you start. It's how you finish. Calvin Ridley, we needed it pretty bad just to feel confident moving forward. We should build from this. That being said, Tennessee is a bad team off a win. Those teams have not historically done very well. But, the Raiders have been a disaster since week 1. All right. They won at New England week 1, and they haven't won a game since. Pete Carroll talked about how all 3 phases were struggling. Well, I forget it was last week or 2 weeks ago. And I think it was the game in Washington where they were non-competitive. And they were even more non-competitive in Indy yesterday. Geno Smith has 9 interceptions, by the way. That's the most by any Raiders quarterback in the first 5 games of the season since Jim Plunkett. The last NFL quarterback to have 9 interceptions in his team's first 5 games, that'd be Zach Wilson. You never want to be compared with Zach Wilson. Pete Carroll, quote, "It was really disappointing for us to have such a hard time getting into this game. We need to change course from the way we're going." Talking about the struggles of late. I'm processing it poorly, to tell you the truth, because I did expect to win right out of the chutes. So, by the way, both tight ends inactive yesterday. That's their 2 best pass catchers. Bowers is elite. Myers good. They lost another cornerback, Eric Stokes, hurt in that ballgame. Raiders are coming apart at the seams. Even with the tough spot for Tennessee, the Raiders can't hold at 6. They really can't. We'll see some Tennessee money between now and kickoff.
All right, almost 2,800 of you guys watching live, whether it's on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, X, etc. So thank you guys for that. Jump in the comment section. Give us a like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode of the Opening Line Report. Teddy, it is Monday morning, so that means I made a mistake. We got to go back to the 1 p.m. slate because we've got the New England Patriots taking on the New Orleans Saints. I don't know how I could forget these 2 teams. Patriots off that nice Sunday night football win. Admittedly, I went to bed at halftime, so you're going to have to give me the cliff notes on how that second half of the game went. Saints, speaking of second halves, what a second half by them. They were able to really capitalize on the mistakes of the New York Giants. I was very happy, even though I laid a bad number. I laid 1 with this team. I was very happy to get the end result.
What did you make a mistake on? I don't understand.
Well, we were in the 4 p.m. slate, and this is a 1 p.m. game.
Oh, that's all right. We go in rotation order. It's not. You can make all the mistakes you want like that. No big deal. People will figure out what the start time is. Look ahead line: New England 3.5 and 45 against the Saints. My powering number: New England 3.5. The markets were 3.5 and 45 last night, and we saw 3.5, and there were 45.5s earlier this morning. So we're not seeing anything from the markets right now. And of course, the Patriots coming off, that was a statement game win for New England in Buffalo last night. You worry about a team like that off a win like that, laying points on the road. I would not call it an optimal New England spot. That being said, don't be fooled by the Saints beating the Giants yesterday. They went 0-3 in the red zone. They had 2.9 yards per carry, only 5.4 yards per play. What did they do? They didn't turn the ball over, and they forced 5. When you're plus 5 in turnovers, you're supposed to win. And even with that, they needed an 87-yard passing touchdown on a blown coverage, an 86-yard fumble return touchdown that flipped the game. Spencer Rattler's now 1-10 as a starter. Quote, "It feels good to get that first win. It was a team win. The defense played great. The offensive line was elite. Taysom Hill made his first appearance of the season. Foster Moreau was back on the defensive side after, he got hurt last year. So 2 longtime veterans returning to the roster. But now we're talking about a bottom feeder off a win. I tapped the brakes on New Orleans. They're not a team I'm excited about this week.
All right, let's tap the brakes. Let's hit the gas pedal on this team, Teddy. I think I have to go Packers and Survivor this week. Like I said about the Colts, I needed a rocking chair winner. Surely this is going to be a rocking chair Survivor winner. Double-digit favorite here. The Bengals are taking on the Green Bay Packers.
Look ahead, 13.5, 44. My powering number only comes 12.5 for the Packers, and I've got Green Bay priced for the elite, so maybe I'm not low enough on Cincinnati. Markets open 14/14.5 last night, 44, and the 14s are gone pretty much. It's mostly 14.5s out there right now for Cincy. The box score is going to lie for the Bengals. Lions, they said 206 of their 322 yards came in the fourth quarter when they trailed 28-3, and it wasn't that kind of 28-3 from the Super Bowl. It was Bengals with a backup quarterback who's struggling 28-3. They weren't coming back, and that's the third straight game since he has scored just 3 points in the first 3 quarters of the game. They scored 21 in the fourth, but they've been out the last 3 losses, a combined margin of 113-37. Can they put Jake Browning out there again? I don't know. Zach Taylor. After a game like that, we're going to look at all the personnel to make sure we're doing the right thing. I won't shy away from that because it's a fair question after the amount of turnovers we had. We hung the defense out to dry a couple times in a row. That's my job. I call the plays on offense, and I put on myself, and it just hasn't been good enough. I've got to keep us out of danger. That's on me. So other options for Cincinnati. They got Brett Rypien on the 53-man roster. They have Mike White and Sean Clifford on the practice squad. We've seen pretty much every time that the coach has gone, I don't know, on Sunday night, we've seen a quarterback change. We saw it with Joe Flacco this past week. So I don't know. Browning, there was a spark in the fourth quarter. I don't know if there's enough of the spark to keep him there. The Packers are off a tie and a bye. They tied. They went 9 for 11 on third down. Didn't have a fourth down conversion. 5 of 5 in terms of red zone touchdowns. But it was the first time all season where Jeff Hafley's defense got gashed in that game against Dallas. Tie and a bye might be a pretty good motivator. Worst defensive performance of the season by a wide margin might be a pretty good motivator. That could all be bad news for a Cincinnati team that is basically in free fall right now.
Yes, they are in free fall. It is not a good time to be a Cincinnati Bengals fan. Let's get into the double header. Oh, I apologize. We got to go to Sunday Night Football first. Detroit is headed to Kansas City. Kansas City still plays tonight, Monday Night Football in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm going to go quick with the Monday night games. We'll just do a little beat, but because I know we're running out of time. Look at line Kansas City 1-49 against Detroit. My powering number also 1-49. The markets right now 1/1.5, 49.5/50. So we're seeing some over money for Detroit. And of course, Jared Goff only threw 4 incomplete passes, in yesterday's game. Monty and Gibbs, 30 carries, 119 yards, controlled the whole flow. The box score lies. I talked about how Cincy got all those yards in the fourth quarter. Since the week 1 loss to the Packers, Detroit has scored 52, 38, 34, and 37 points. 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread. But the Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Bears are not a who's who of good NFL teams. Kansas City's better than those squads. We'll see how the Chiefs look on Monday Night Football. If they look good, the 1.5s will hold. The 2s will hold. I don't see Kansas City, even if they blow out Jacksonville, laying a full field goal here. I don't see it.
Teddy, real quick, power ratings wise, how far do you have these two teams apart on a neutral field? Say 1.5 maybe?
Yeah, I have Detroit 1 point better on a neutral.
Okay, perfect. That's all I wanted to know. Just out of curiosity. Now let's get into these two Monday Night Football games. If you guys are going to hang around right after this, we got Andy Lang already in the comments section. Wager Talk today is up in 5 minutes. So let's get Teddy going here. The Buffalo Bills just got absolutely shocked last night by the New England Patriots. Now they head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons.
Yeah, look at line here. Buffalo -4.5/-5, total of 50.5. My powering number, Bills 4.5. The market's open 3.5 and 49. The 3.5s are holding. The total has been bet down. There are still 48.5s out there. And let's do one final emergency betting alert. Let's do one final emergency betting alert. It's like, oh, I'm on the trigger. Yeah, if you want the under, bet it right now. We're seeing the markets are, the prevailing number is 48. There are 47.5s out there right now. This is already down from 49.5. But I don't know that even the 48s are going to hold for this ball game. There are concerns right now about Buffalo offensively. The Bills off the Sunday Night Football loss against the Patriots. The Falcons off the win versus Washington, and then the bye week. Last year, worth noting, Raheem Morris out of the bye week. They lost at home to the Chargers 17-13. And we'll see how fat and happy Atlanta is coming off a bye and a win. Buffalo likely to be hungry coming off the Sunday Night Football loss.
All right, the Bills at the Commanders is our second Monday Night Football game. Teddy, should I be wary? The Commanders were kind of on that longer list to play for Survivor. Is this a spot where you're saying, be careful?
The Bears are playing the Commanders. Look at line, Washington 4.5 and 50. My powering number 5.5, so higher than the markets on Washington right now. Last night opened 4.5 and 50, and we're seeing some Chicago money as low as 3.5 at a lot of books. The Commanders gashed the Chargers defense all game. Deebo Samuel, huge in the game when McLaurin didn't show up. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, averaging 6.6 yards per carry full season. They outgained the Chargers by 1.9 yards per play. There's things to like about Washington. They didn't even play particularly well in yesterday's game. The Bears coming off a win and a bye. 4 takeaways against the Raiders in that victory, and they still looking like one of the worst teams in the league. Chicago only won by 1 after blocking the potential game-winning field goal attempt. Advantage, in my opinion, situationally, Washington, not Chicago.
All right, Teddy covers at Teddy_covers on all your social media channels. WT.buzz/TC if you're looking to partner up with Teddy. Teddy, let everybody know what you've got going on, not only for football season, but as I mentioned, NBA is right around the corner.
Sure, and baseball playoffs. The baseball playoffs have been fantastic. 4-1 so far this season. I think it's 14-4 dating back to last year in MLB playoff action. The football's been a good run. The last 15-7, I think it is, with my football plays over the last 2.5 weeks. The NBA, number 1 all time at WagerTalk since 2022. I'm number 1, more than 200 units of profit. Let's partner up. Check out the website, wt.buzz/TC. Visit WagerTalk.com. And boy, guys, we appreciate those comments very, very much. Thank you for commenting below. Thank you for the likes, and good luck with all your bets this week.
All right, good luck, guys. We will see you next Monday morning, bright and early, for NFL week number 7.